The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.
Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the show, to Culture Insanity, our podcast. This is episode number 12, we think. Pretty sure. Episode number 12. Welcome back. Another week, another Saturday. What's on our docket for discussion today is a few things, but like always, we get to what we can get to, and we don't. Which we don't. So what's...
Our show notes actually say it's episode 311.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. So, episode 311. Season 3, episode 11.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we've got a few things on our dock today.
Are you there, Pastor Monty? Can you hear us?
I am here.
Okay, cool.
So we have Jeff Goldblum, the wonderful Jeff Goldblum.
The one and only.
Has made his way into the headlines.
Must go faster.
Strangely enough, we just watched Jurassic Park. I guess it was last Saturday.
It was last weekend, yeah.
Yeah, last Saturday. And then he finds himself in the headlines. But he's sort of had a resurgence anyways. He has that Disney show where he travels the world and stuff.
Well, and he's the spokesman for, Rent.com or something like that.
Rocket Mortgage?
Yeah. Hawk's apartments.
Oh, yeah. That's right. And he's also going to be in, I think, Jurassic World 3.
And he's just Jeff Goldblum.
Yep. He's kind of like Sam Jackson in the way that he's transcended his character to be just himself in the movies.
I suppose. I think that Nicolas Cage is more the, if you can call it this, the white Sam Jackson.
How he sort of shed his actorness and is just
become... Yes, people get Jeff Goldblum for his Jeff Goldblumness.
Yeah.
He exists in the same realm as, say, Christopher Walken. It's like you want that sort of...
I agree, Josh. I would think that's closer.
Yeah, you want that sort of, that timbre to his voice, that rhythm, his way of,
You know what you're getting when you go see a Sam Jackson movie. You're not going to see his character. You're going to see Sam Jackson. You're going to see Nicolas Cage. You're going to see Jeff Goldblum, perhaps. But anyways, we've already digressed. Anyways, he's found himself in the headlines. Another thing we're talking about today is just Netflix binging during this particular time, which is not... I mean, Netflix binging has been a thing for years now. But there's an interesting article about it that, implies certain things or maybe we want to look out for. So we're going to be talking about that. And then praying. For some reason...
Celebrity praying.
Praying has come up more than once in the news in the last week, and from a couple different polar opposite spheres of influence, which is funny. DMX being one of them, the rapper, or former rapper. I don't even know if he's, active anymore.
He doesn't rap anymore?
I don't. I guess I don't follow his music career, but I certainly haven't heard of anything.
Pastor Monty's getting a phone call, I think.
Or a message.
Yeah,
and the other person is Elizabeth Hasselbeck. She was
the wife of David Hasselhoff?
No.
No, she's married to a football player or something, right?
Maybe. She used to be a host on The View.
Yeah.
I think it was The View. And then Meghan McCain, who has come out and sort of slammed her rhetoric of the use of praying during this particular time. So
interesting.
Yeah, so those are the things we're going to be talking about. So without further ado, we hope you're with us. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, thanks for being here, and thanks for being here in the future for those of you that will listen in the future. So first up, Jeff Goldblum. So Jeff Goldblum was a guest host. I think he's a guest host. I don't think he's a permanent fixture on this. I don't even know the name of the show. It's like a drag racing show. RuPaul's drag.
No, not drag racing.
Not drag racing. Yeah, sorry. Drag queen. Drag queen. Drag racing. Yeah, I think it's just called RuPaul's. I think it is called RuPaul's Drag Race, though. because it's like a
might be.
competition show.
Yeah,
I
it
think
might
that's
be.
why
That might be true.
I said that. I knew I wasn't crazy.
So he's hosting it?
He's like a
No.
It's one of those shows where there's like a panel of
Yes.
judges type thing.
Drag?
No, not in drag. In his
He's-
he's just Jeff Goldblum.
Right. He's hosting. Yes, because he's Jeff Goldblum.
Right.
He's hosting because he's like super stylish. That's his.
Metrosexual, you might call him.
Yeah. Although that's like that term is like outdated, but yes.
Okay, yeah, he's hip with the style and the culture and the thick rimmed glasses and the beards.
He's hetero fabulous.
Yeah, hetero, just like you, Pastor Monty.
Suns out, guns
Oh,
out.
absolutely.
So, anyways,
Absolutely.
Wow.
yeah. So, anyways, he's a guest host or a guest judge on this show, which is this competition show for drag queens and.
Joseph Jesse suggests that we have a crossover with RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah.
You know what? We invite it. If you want to talk to us about culture from a Christian perspective, somehow RuPaul, if you're watching this, we'd be more than willing to have that conversation.
Yeah. Anyways, so there was a contestant on this particular drag queen show that dressed up in like a hijab. I think the contestant is Middle Eastern, but anyways, he was dressed up in a hijab and like Muslim attire, if you will. And then not RuPaul, Jeff Goldblum made comments like after the contestant was talking and stuff and was asking the question about what that culture or that religion, Islam, believes about women and homosexuality and the whole LGBTQ thing. So he asked a question basically. Here, I'll put it in his own words so I don't misquote him. He says, is there something in that religion that is anti-homosexuality and anti-woman? Does that complicate the issue? I'm just raising it and thinking out loud, and maybe I'm being stupid, but he was asking the question of like this person's background with and then trying to reconcile like their lifestyle, I guess you'd call it, and involvement in the show or whatever. And by asking that question, for clarity in terms of what Muslims believe or the culture allows, he was publicly, on the different social medias and such, he was sort of slammed, and people got super offended that he asked the question and stuff.
We got to listen to it. We got to listen.
Yeah,
to
there's a video in the article.
You want to play it?
Yeah, sure.
Because anything Jeff Goldblum says, you have to hear it in his own words.
Yeah, yeah, I'll play it. So here we go. This was the audio from that show, RuPaul's Drag Queen.
Are you
Drag Race.
religious, may I ask?
I'm not, and to be honest, this outfit really represents the importance that visibility for people of religious minorities need to have in this country.
Isn't this an interesting wrinkle, though? Is there something in that religion that is anti-homosexuality and anti-woman? Does that complicate the issue? I'm just raising it and thinking out loud and maybe being stupid, but
No.
What do you think?
I think, drag has always shaken the tree, so to speak. And there are so many different layers to this presentation. And if it was ever going to be done, this is the stage to do it.
It's a complex issue. I have my own misgivings about the way that LGBT people are treated in the Middle East. And at the same time, I am one.
So there you go. I like when he goes, wah-ha-ha.
Yeah, he does that. That's a Goldblumism. Wah, 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 wah. So, anyways, because he asked that, and the face on the contestant and on RuPaul was sort of like just like straight face. They weren't like amused or something. But so he asked the question, and he was, and got a lot of backlash for it and stuff. First of all, well, I guess unpack the actual beliefs in that culture and in that religion. Was he dumb for asking the question?
I mean, I think if you're going to look at... I don't think it's necessary to unpack the beliefs in that, really in any religion when you're in America on TV. You know what I mean? Like, in America, we are free to discuss those things. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he was being ignorant or anything like that. I think that people are being sensitive. You know,
Well, we're kind of free to discuss those things. See, that's because the underlying issue is that he openly asked a question, maybe out of ignorance, but he openly asked a question and he was shamed for it. So they're
right. I
trying
mean,
to
technically free.
discourage that question.
Sure, I mean technically free.
Not socially free.
Yeah, under the Constitution, yes, we have the right to free speech.
As long as we're not inciting, action that is against whatever, that's violent. But that being said, I don't really. To me, this is a non-issue.
So I have a main question then, as it pertains to us, and we're not Muslim, obviously. But so my question is, as Christians, what can we learn from the outrage and offended response that this question sort of received? And as believers, are we guilty, we as a whole, not, us three here, but are we guilty of having the same types of emotional response if somebody gets something wrong, if somebody misunderstands or misinterprets or has a question about our faith? Do we react in the same way? What's your guys' experience been in that as far as the church at large? Like, are Christians guilty of the same sort of thing when someone asks, well, what about this as far as your faith goes? Like, doesn't it say this? Like, do we react in the same sort of way, do you think? Again, not we as in us three, but...
In our current culture, the majority of Christians today are made up of Generation X, Millennials, Generation Y, and they're all a bunch of snowflakes.
Yes.
So you're saying, yes, we react in the same way. Christians react in the same way because they get offended just as someone else gets offended.
In a general sense, yes, that's true. They do. Number one, because they're ignorant of what they believe themselves, and they're ignorant of what other religions actually believe in relation to whom they serve, who they claim they serve.
I would go the opposite direction. I would say no. In general, Christianity has been welcoming of the invitation, welcoming and even exploitative of the invitation to discuss the belief.
Really? You think like the average person? Like how would the average person react then if, say, you were having a conversation with someone and then they said, well doesn't your God or doesn't the Bible say this? Like,
so I think the average person would say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think
his point, yeah.
I don't think the average person would say, how dare you ask me that?
Yeah, just immediately go to offended and
that's
hurt.
that's the thing. I don't think the average Christian would say, "How dare you?" And for the record,
well, is one better than the other?
I don't think that the average American would say, "How dare you?" either. I think that you have a vocal minority.
Another one of those situations.
Yeah, that you have a vocal minority that likes to. Well, I don't know. It is changing. Wow, what's going off over there?
It's me.
It's you.
My brother's blowing up my phone.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's watching the show, or
I doubt it. I don't know. I haven't looked. Anyways,
you should call him and tell him, dude, I'm on a show right now. And then ask him what he thinks. So, Jeremy, what do you think about RuPaul's Drag Race and Jeff Goldblum?
He'd probably say snowflakes.
Yeah, probably. But I think the average person is welcoming of it. I do think that things have changed a lot in society, and I think the next generation will probably have that problem about any and everything. I don't think that it's necessarily connected to religion, though. And yeah, that's my thought on it.
But you said that they would respond, I don't know.
Yeah, I think most people would
when
respond
challenged or whatever. But is that somehow better?
It's better than saying that you know something that you don't.
Or being
that's
offended
true.
at something that you don't know.
I think Jeff Goldblum was asking a question out of ignorance. That is, that he truly was curious, because here you have a cultural phenomena taking place,
Meaning
and
drag,
this person
drag, drag.
right, the whole drag thing, and this person that he's talking to is definitely out of step with the culture in which he represents. So he's representing it as he's in drag. So yeah, I think that that's an appropriate question for him to ask. But it's fascinating that the the audience basically shamed him because he asked that. That's ridiculous.
I don't think. I mean, yes, I agree with that premise. I don't think it's fascinating that that audience shamed him, though. It's that audience.
No, that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's that audience, and I don't mean that to say it's the LGBTQ community. I don't know who watches that show. I just know that when people watch shows like that, they're looking for extremes. That's the whole point of those shows, is to put people on display.
Yeah.
So
I find those kind of programs educational.
Oh yeah, you watch them?
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna you have to keep up on culture. And
wait,
you watch them?
Are you saying you watch RuPaul's Drag Race?
What's appropriate for if I'm going to go out and drag? Yeah.
Okay.
So
yes.
we still don't know if you watch the Drag Race show.
It would be difficult for me to try to imitate drag because I have yet to see anybody dressed in drag that has a full beard.
Plus,
unless I was doing like the circus bearded lady type thing or something.
Well, that is an interesting point. It's not really a point worth discussing. But
it's hard for me to find lipstick that matches the color of my beard correctly.
I don't know that that's what anybody who wears lipstick does. That being said, that is ironic that there are women who have hormonal imbalances, that can produce pretty prolific beards, and it's pretty interesting that those people aren't celebrated by the drag community.
There is a
maybe they are. I just don't know of it.
There is a program on cable right now that not the one you're talking about, but there's another program on cable which is basically lifting up the whole, drag fabulous type of thing.
Oh, there's all sorts of programs doing that. There's all sorts of programs doing that. I personally think it's a non-issue. Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum, and he will weather that storm. And even the way that he asked it, he was
self-effacing.
Yeah. He's
maybe
just
I'm being stupid.
Maybe,
like, you tell me. Like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, and in the response, I mean, I'm sure that they're going to say that the drag queen was like taken aback by it or whatever, and that's why they didn't immediately like respond negatively. But it's these shows, it's not a live show like what we're doing. It goes into post-production. Mm-hmm. Nobody thought, oh, that's terrible, and I don't think anybody wants to
somehow dox him.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Let's get Jeff Goldblum and trap him, and then he's gonna say something, and then we can end him.
Yeah,
like there was some sort of nefarious plan against Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay, so moving on. So there's an article in USA Today about binge watching.
Oh, let me just say about that.
About Jeff Goldblum or binge watching?
About Jeff Goldblum.
Okay.
That does speak to the fact that they eat their own. And when I am talking about they, I mean like that. I don't mean the LGBTQ plus community. I mean like in general, like any community that is built upon non-transcendent value. It eats its own. Mm-hmm. So, nobody is safe, even Jeff Goldblum, and that should tell you something. I fully expect that one day, once this show gets its, 1,000 listeners or whatever, they're going to go back and they're going to persecute Pastor Monty for not matching his lipstick to his hair. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And let me just add to what you're saying, Josh, that yes, they all do fall in on themselves, but at least in the drag community, they look fabulous doing it.
Okay.
Well, and I think that always helpful, and I think that like I said, that's anything that's non-transcendent, and I mean that even all the way into quote unquote Christian organizations,
Yeah.
That have lost their way. Like it's human nature. We eat our own, so don't think that you are above that sort of social law just because your name is Jeff Goldblum and you speak funny and are a national treasure.
Jeff Goldblum's a national treasure.
Come on. If anyone's a national treasure,
I don't
Jeff
know if
Goldblum is.
I don't know if he's reached that state.
Oh,
Sam Jackson, I think, is a national treasure.
Sam Jackson's
Jeff
a national
Goldblum
treasure.
more has a cult following, I feel like.
No, he's got a Disney show. He's a national treasure.
I just realized we didn't open with asking if people talking about Disney reminded of our watch parties.
Oh yeah.
Anyways.
Maybe we can talk about our watch party if we have time.
Yeah. Okay, so there's an article, maybe Josh can post it, it's in our Google Chats, Josh, on the importance of binge watching now more than ever. And it's an interesting article. Basically, the long and short of it, and I'll read a little excerpt and take some snippets out here and there, but basically saying that binge watching is important now more than ever because of how it can and how we should look to it to help like our mental state during a time of isolation and a time of basically worry and concern and anxiety and whatnot. And so that's obviously a red flag right away for us. But so I'll try to pull out the good snippets from here. I'll read the first couple paragraphs from the article. It says, just a few months ago, screen time was a source of concern. Now that the pandemic has forced many into social isolation, it's a lifeline. For those of us who have the luxury of staying home, screens are now our only bridge to one another. Instead of condemning the screen outright, we now distinguish between good screen time, which stimulates, comforts, and connects us, and bad screen time, in which we stay up late making ourselves miserable and anxious. The same is true for binge watching. People mean a lot of different things by the term. Some soothe themselves to sleep listening to other people's bedtime routines or comforting kitchen sounds on YouTube. And that's a thing. What's it called again? Producer Jasmine, when people watch people cook, it's called... someone just said it the other day. It's got a really funny term or a funny name to it.
Some sort of combination between culinary and voyeur.
Yeah, it's got a funny word.
Voyeur
maybe someone can comment on it.
colonism. I don't know.
Others make a ritual of watching 2 or 3 episodes of a sitcom each night with their partner. And of course, many of the rest of us blew through all of Tiger King in one sitting. And then they go on to list a bunch of different ways of how binge watching...
I'm proud to say I still haven't seen Tiger King at all.
Yeah, a bunch of different ways of how binge watching is nourishing for us. And it talks about doing it, like premeditating your binge watching, like planning, okay, tonight I'm going to do 6 hours. That's maybe extreme, or maybe not for some people. Extreme for me. And how, like, don't watch certain things that will increase your level of anxiety. Experiment with your inputs in terms of how it affects your mood and behavior. So maybe an action thriller makes you feel this way, or maybe so on and so forth. A romantic movie, like experiment in how it affects your mental state. And it's like... It's saying that that's a good thing to do right now. Of course, it says make it social. Don't use it to put off bedtime. I think that's an important one because especially right now, like sleep is a good way to like boost your immune system, and a lack of sleep is not good for your immune system if you're worried about this virus, and so on and so forth. But the long and short of it is this particular writer in USA Today, whose name it's Pierce, R.I. space Pierce. I don't know. Basically saying that binge watching is something we should be doing to cope with the times, like on an emotional and mental level, perhaps a spiritual level. I don't know. My question. Oh, first of all, I guess, what are your guys' initial thoughts on that? and then I'll ask a more pointed question.
Well, so before we get to our thoughts, Lucy Brown had a leftover thought. I just wanted to
On
make
Jeff
sure.
Goldblum?
Yeah, I just want to make sure it gets out there.
We can't get off Jeff Goldblum.
Christians who get offended by other thoughts and beliefs, I think, are not sure of what they believe. There will always be an offense given or being taken. Censorship should not be present in education unless it bothers the conscience, which she then puts in marks as sin. And I did post the article. So back to what we're saying, and I pretty much agree with what Lucy's saying. At least off the top of my head, if I gave it thought, I'm not. I think I agree. So binge watching, right? Binge watching. Yeah, that's dumb.
like
Nobody thinks,
the notion of what's being suggested is dumb. Binge watching itself is not dumb. It's actually kind of fun sometimes.
I don't
watch 4 or
think
5 episodes of something.
too much thought going into that. Do I premeditatedly watch something to make me depressed, or watch something that's going to make me happy? Or that's too much thought. Personally, I like to binge watch Truth Time with Pastor Monty.
Okay. Yes, I don't think that it's too much thought. I think it needs more thought, and it needs more fields of thought brought into it. Like, what does it do to affect you? Like, what does it do, like health-wise? Things like that. I think the person is trying to say that the benefits far outweigh the negatives, but I think the implication that's sort of being surreptitiously put in there is that where you get your peace is from something that, like, basically this is your only option. Hey,
During this particular
this time, this is what you got to do. Hey, have you ever heard of a book?
Or several within one.
Have you ever heard of a phone call? Have you ever heard of doing puzzles? And
one of the things that the author, to their credit, I don't know if it's a man or woman, the author does to their credit, one of their points is the binge watching has revived the once popular phone call, because not everyone can do the watch party thing.
Oh my gosh.
But like back in the day, not in my day, but you would
party calls.
You would call someone and you would be watching it at the same time and talking about it. Like the Regal commercial. Remember that?
Right.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, the party call line. I think it's ridiculous to think that your only option then is to watch TV. You people, how would you survive if an EMP hit? You know, if an electromagnetic pulse hit. You know that there's more, like, people were not miserable in the past before we had television and before we had internet. And I say this as one who has 8 screens in my office.
It's true.
And
for Josh to be saying this, you should take it for what it is. 'Cause
yeah.
The man is no stranger to technology.
I am
and
no
he's a
stranger.
fanboy of technology, and he's always looking at the latest and newest.
I am no stranger to the concept of streaming. I try to keep up on everything.
Very much indulges technology.
I'm a full and early adapter of technology, and that includes all the streaming services, which we pretty much have in our Haven ministry. We have access to all of them. But I'm telling you, those things are meant to be tools for your life. Yeah. And at the point where you're using them to disassociate.
And that's exactly what's
that's a big term for you out there.
Well, and this is sort of a segue into like kind of what we were watching the other night too.
Sure.
Like, because the author is suggesting that you do it with and this is my question too, do it with a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. You go to sleep because you like the soothing whatevers, and you know they talk about innocent things like the kitchen's clanking and that kind of crap, but like people go to sleep, and I used to do this when I was like a teenager too. Like I would go to sleep just with something in the background for whatever reason, because it was soothing, but there's still like inputs going on in the unconscious mind, you know, like and so yeah, I think it's dangerous. But my question is, like, what are the dangers of this hyper binging when we're encouraged to consume, both with our mind on and with our mind off? Because that's what the author is suggesting you do. Like, experiment with it behaviorally, which is kind of worrying.
Yeah.
And, you know, do it do it just to turn off and, like you said, disassociate and stuff.
Well, that's the term. That's the term that people need to understand. I think is euphemized in this article, right? They're doing a whole article on disassociation through technology.
Yeah.
Disassociation is a bad thing. You need socialization. You need critical thinking in order for your life to be of value, let alone just to function as a human being. You don't, you could easily take what he's saying and put drugs in its place.
Yeah. Experiment with how
plan the way that you do your drugs.
Yeah,
plan the
do
way
it socially.
Yeah.
do it to see how it affects you positively and negatively, so you know which of those drugs you like and which you don't like.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely dumb, and I say it that way. Yeah, no, it's absolutely dumb. That's not how we're supposed to function. We are supposed to be critical, but we're supposed to be we are supposed to be critical in how we're planning our entertainment, but we're supposed to keep our minds on.
Yeah.
And consumption for the sake of consumption, do you know what that does? Consumption for the sake of consumption makes people fat. That's what it does. And the weight, literally, of the fatness of the person slowly begins to kill them. That's what it does. So if you want your mind to rot, then go ahead. Consume for the sake of consumption, just to make yourself feel better. You could say this about food too. Experiment with this, try doing this, be social this way. Just consume and consume and consume because it makes you feel better. And this is a time where it's okay to do that because it makes you feel better. This person's an idiot. And I think that they're trying to get people to be idiots with them.
And then it's
I find it offensive.
It's under the guise of like they're doing like it's a positive article or something. Like here's how I can help you during this time, and they're going to write an article about doing drugs, like you say. What are your thoughts?
So at what point, Josh, are you going to tell us how you really feel?
I always say how I really feel.
Well, how do you feel? What do you think? You saying you initially started with that's too much thought into this article, but what are your thoughts?
Well, that is too much thought. Though, first of all, I'm in agreement with Josh. I mean, the whole idea of the whole binge watching thing is not new.
Right.
It's just taken to a new height because of the
availability.
Because trapped in their homes.
Yeah. Yep.
But fix something, read a book, do a puzzle, talk to your spouse or to your children. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Even better, write a book.
And just vegetating. And if you do watch, television or take in some type of media, then do it with purpose and design.
Yes.
I will say this, though. One of the reasons back in the day, it's been a while, but back in the day when we discovered that my wife had cancer, what we used to have, and Josh will remember this, we used to keep our television in the television room.
Sure.
There was never a television in the living room.
Yes.
Because if people came and visit us, we give them our full attention. But when my wife got her cancer, one of the things that we discovered through some research is that it was beneficial for her to be able to watch programs that made her laugh. So we would watch I Love Lucy and programs because
she got cancer in the 1950s.
No, she didn't. Come on, Josh, be serious. So my point is that
don't make a joke about cancer, Josh.
My bad. My mom has cancer, so
there are certain programs that you can watch that are beneficial because they make you laugh and what have you.
I don't think we're knocking that necessarily, and I don't think you're suggesting this, but the problem is that this person is saying that this is the source that you should go to for these, emotional support and, whatever. no problem with
Well,
listening
I
to
feel
music
Josh
that
in
makes
that.
you feel good or whatever.
Sure.
Watching something that makes you laugh. After watching something that's like scary or intense, I like to watch cartoons because it's more lighthearted, and I don't like to go to bed on a
The Office.
disturbing thing. Or The Office because it's so dumb. Yeah.
Well, I think it's so clever.
So
The
I
Office
can't-
is a palate cleanser for me.
But
I can't watch cartoons
yeah.
nowadays.
To the person that
because
says we're
They're
being too ridiculous or too because there's a lot of people that would say that we're being too whatever
Too over the top.
too over the top. Yeah, like we're not saying just don't watch things or don't watch things to elicit a certain feeling, especially if like you're going through something particularly sad or intense or whatever. But the suggestion in the article is very much like you need this now more than ever. This is what you should do. And so that's what's the cause
Well,
of
and
concern.
it goes into
And do it with the unconscious mind as much as with the conscious mind. And that's a red flag.
the idea of consumption for consumption is really a call to idolatry.
Yeah.
It's really what it is. You know, you give your everything to this, you turn off to it, and you just sort of allow it to overtake you and let it be what you do because, you know, there's nothing else that you could possibly do in your life during this time, which I got to tell you is a load of malarkey. Yeah, you heard me say it.
Yeah,
Malarkey.
agree.
I have been
That's-
more busy. I was busy before this time. I've been more busy during this time than ever.
Yeah. Feel that.
That there's what we call bovine excrement right there.
Is that what I was cutting you off for you to say? Bovine excrement? Yeah. I think disassociation for the sake of disassociation is absolutely a problem. And I worry about it, if I'm being honest. I do worry that society, during this time in particular, is so bent on entertaining itself, and it's so cut off from its methods of entertainment. And actually, entertainment might not even be the right term, but from soothing itself, right? It's so cut off from its normal methods of soothing itself that it will that and all it has is this medium that it's going to cause an over dependency. That we're really going to get a polarized society where people are over dependent. Like if you ever seen Wall-E? Like this is what Wall-E.
Earlier I was thinking like Idiocracy, which is the same
Idiocracy,
thing.
totally great
where,
movie.
We're like just dumb. We're dumb, like on our
Right.
couches, and we don't leave our chairs, and our toilet's in our chair, and
Yeah.
we're fat and just ugly, just
Yeah,
ugly,
yeah.
in
Ugly
every
as
way.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This I do worry about that, and I worry about teleeducation, like sitting kids in front of screens and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. People should be out and accomplishing things. People should be trying things, not just reading books, writing books, making art, interacting with their neighbors. Like that's the sort of thing that people should be doing now. I get like now
Finding ways to be productive instead
Yeah.
of being
Well,
defeated, and then now we're
learning-
going to turn to this.
learning about who you are, like what you can do with your mind and your body. I don't disagree that now's a great time to catch up on things. I wish that I could partake in that because I don't have the time to. But what I will say is it reminds me of this show that producer Jasmine and I were watching called Evil on CBS. So if you get a chance, if you have CBS All Access, I think that's the only place you can find it. But if you have CBS All Access, they have like 30-day free type stuff. Then watch everything about Star Trek that you can. But once
Wow.
you're done with that, then
Josh, you're telling us to binge, and then what are we?
And then once you're done with that, then you should check out the show called Evil. It stars Michael, the guy from not
Michael Sheen.
No, Luke Cage.
Yeah. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's the guy who
Coulter.
plays Coulter. Yeah, Mike Coulter. So it's the guy who plays Luke Cage. But anyway, it's this idea that evil is so the premise of the show, which I believe, for the record, the premise of the show is that evil has been waiting for technology to catch up to its intent. So now that technology has been being worked in all of these various areas, and technology is sort of full, evil is now, and evil was investing basically in the history of technology all the way till now. Evil is now sort of polarizing itself to be able to do stuff, and there's all these things that kind of work together. But one of the things that's just really creepy is this song that is put onto YouTube that indoctrinates people. And this song has been it turns into a meme, and then it's been put into like behind the scenes type stuff. Like it's been used as like background music and in all sorts of like web broadcasts and children's stuff. And it is like actually like a satanic incantation or whatever. It's really, really interesting, and it kind of reminds me of this. And that kind of goes back to what we watched on during our watch party too.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know if I don't know who's listening right now, but Pastor, did you watch that thing on your own time by any chance? The Out of Shadows documentary?
I did not. I'm familiar with what it's supposed to be about, but I did not have an opportunity to see it.
You should check it out. It's on YouTube. I think it's just on. Yeah, it's on YouTube because I think that's what we pulled it from when we did our thing last.
no,
time.
I think
we
it
did
was
Facebook.
But I think it pulls from YouTube.
Oh, really?
I think that's how.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I think. Yeah, it's an interesting documentary, and I mean the long and short. The point at the end is we shouldn't be
Blindly.
yeah, blindly
accepting.
consuming these things, and we should be thinking with a critical mind and of what's being presented and stuff. I think you'd like it. There's some ridiculousness in it, but
Okay, the
You know,
greatest.
I was in that stuff. I was ahead of the curve. I was preaching about that stuff 30 years ago.
yeah, it's interesting because it's taken from the guy that does it. He was like, or there's multiple guys speaking into it that have been like intimately involved in Hollywood for 20 or 30 years on big and small projects alike, and they're seeing behind the curtain in terms of potential involvement from higher sources and stuff, which is concerning, and people in control of what the mass public is consuming and being indoctrinated with, and all these different things. So it's right up your alley in terms of what you say you've been preaching about 30 years ago. But it's just interesting to see it and hear it from someone within the industry saying the same things. There's some ridiculous things in it.
Oh my gosh.
Josh was about to say
Oh
something.
my gosh. Yes, there's this ridiculous line of thought. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff I agree with, and I agree part of where this show starts is in a lot of ways it births from Pastor Monty teaching me at a very young age to be very critical with what I consume in terms of media. And so, that's one of the things that I taught also, and that's one of the things that our church is like really heavy on, is not to prohibit but to direct when it comes to consumption of those things, and to really keep a critical mind on. But man, wow. Okay, so let me tell you one of the strings of thoughts that really made me chuckle. So here's what it is. Okay, so did you know that
This is from the Out of Shadows
Right.
documentary, in case you're not tracking.
I'm going to try to do this justice. This is from Out of Shadows. This is not what I believe, but here we go. Did you know that the holly tree was used in Druid rituals in order to create prophetic visions and to channel evil spirits and so on and so forth, right? So it is of interest that people named that area Hollywood, because it is a place where the holly tree is, it's basic. Yeah, it's that.
It was used to influence people.
Is used to influence
Druid
people
rituals,
in
yeah.
Druid rituals, right? So they named it Hollywood. But here's the thing: how do they influence people in Hollywood? They use television, right? And television sounds a lot like tell a vision. And when they tell a vision to people, how do they do that? Well, they put it on TV stations where you watch channels, like how you channel in Druid rituals. And when they do that and they use the channels, well, they call that programming, where they are now programming people with the visions that they're channeling using the Druid rituals of holly trees. And I'm just like, that is so asinine. That is absolutely
I know.
ridiculous.
I was worried that the filmmaker of this documentary, that it was at that point that he lost people because he just went down this rabbit hole of, it really is conspiracy
that's
theory.
It just gives me, it makes my heart smile in the way that, like, how does the zebra get its stripes sort of way?
Yeah.
Like when a kid says, oh, the zebra got its stripes because it stood behind it went to jail, and I don't know. It was absolutely ridiculous. Although I do believe that there's lots of conspiracies going on in any institution where there's power.
Yeah.
And that includes Hollywood.
And that's just man being man right there.
But come on. You can take...
I gotta say, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you're in heaven these days.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff out there
Well,
that you could, get sidetracked on.
The advent of fake news really propelled that into the next stratosphere. Because if the news isn't real and we can't trust where we're getting from, then you can't trust anything, and then you write your own stories.
Hey, there's this great scene in that movie, I think it's in the opening, where they show all these news broadcasters who are saying the same thing. And they say something like...
Yes.
My wife was disturbed by that, by the way.
Yeah, I love that scene. I think it's great editing.
He said the line is, "This is bad for our
Democracy
or something."
Right,
And it's
right.
got it's one of those things where in a thumbnail, all the different news channels are
There's,
bad for our democracy and bad for our democracy, and everyone's in unison, bad for our democracy.
Right.
and you're
and they feature,
everyone's saying the same line. They're all being fed the same thing. We're being fed the same thing.
and they feature Channel 2 News.
They do that right now.
Poor.
They do that right now.
Well, to Josh's point,
if over the last year, if you have looked at the media and you've looked at how they presented all the different things that are going on, the liberal media will state one thing, and they will present a narrative, and then every one of the channels will pick up and they will harp on that one narrative point.
Well, and they use the same language.
Watch it.
They use the same language, and what I was saying during our watch feed is, duh. That's literally how information travels. That's how we get memes. This is what people do. They use the same language. You change the language, you control the people. And this is what we do in advertising and marketing and news and music and movies and so on and so forth. Certain phrases become part of the cultural zeitgeist. That doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy. It's the nature of language. And it's just really, it's a clever bit of editing.
I think it's through the lens also.
But I love they feature Channel 2 News.
I think why it's so mind-blowing or concerning in that documentary and the way it's presented is because the documentary is suggesting that there is an overt nefarious intention behind it. And
right. I'm just saying
though it's not new, like you're saying, and it's something that's used, and this is how
the documentary points it out to concern, right?
Yeah.
But what it's highlighting is not compelling evidence. What it's highlighting is just an interesting truth to social reality. That's how it works. Joseph Jesse points out, and I agree with him, that there are conservative news stations who use the same terminology. So he brings up Sinclair Media Group. I don't know who Sinclair Media Group is because I don't really watch the news. I read articles. But in any case.
But yeah, anyways, it was at that moment that I was like, I'm afraid he just lost his audience. Or anyone that was already going into it of...
Oh, you had my interest at that point, but then you got my attention.
Curiosity, and then you got my attention. Yeah,
that's right.
But it is an interesting documentary, and the point should be well taken, and the point of this episode predominantly should be well taken. Don't just be mindless and blind and non-critical when it comes to these kinds of things. Like,
Oh, there you go. So the Sinclair Media Group is the ones who own Channel 2.
oh really?
Yeah. Because they're featured in the documentary, which I thought was awesome. I was stoked about it because we live in Portland, and it's always nice to get a shout out, even if it's a negative one.
After a while, it just becomes mind-boggling with all this stuff. There's just a point where, as far as I'm concerned personally, there's just a point where I become overloaded, and I say, you know what? I just want to watch a mindless movie like a good Steven Seagal dick-butt movie.
Well, let me ask you this question. So, and maybe you're just being sloppy in the way you're wording it, because when I was a child, you would have railed against me if I said something like that. So, but let me ask you this question. These are movies that you've already seen?
Yes, but my work's done.
Okay. These are movies that you've already seen?
Well,
like a classic, like Under Siege or something?
Steven Seagal isn't exactly
he
selling
still
out movie theaters.
He still makes
He's not exactly
direct-to-video.
in his freaking heyday.
He still makes direct-to-video movies all the time.
Yeah, see, I'm with Adam. I watch him in his heyday. Some of the newer stuff that he's
Okay,
done.
so you're saying these are movies you've already seen?
Yeah. So you're not mindless in watching it because you've already dissected the material. For the record, I don't know that there's a ton that you can dissect from a Steven Seagal movie, other than we shouldn't, as Christians, go around breaking people's elbows inside out and other joints and things like that.
Well,
when you go back and you watch like a Steven Seagal movie, what you're really looking for is, see, now that you've seen it, you're really going back and you're looking for the finer points.
The finer points.
Right, you're really savoring it for the flavor now.
Yeah. With the sophisticated palate, now you're really dissecting the flavors.
Which, in all fairness, takes a little bit of work, right?
I guess so.
Heidi brings up the Pizzagate scandal that is brought up in that thing. That I
That's
found
interesting.
really interesting, and I would be interested to look into it.
I was also ignorant to some of the details of that. That's why I found it most interesting.
The Hollywoodland, no.
Yeah, the televisions and which I think in the live when we were streaming it, Pastor James of our church here, he's like Snopes that right away. The holly tree does not actually originate from there. It's not native to there. That's a bunch of malarkey. But yeah.
No, he was saying it wasn't named after that.
Oh, gotcha.
I was saying that, or it could just be that there's lots of holly trees there.
Oh, okay, yeah, great. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, there's a new show. I just watched the first episode of it. There's a new show by Ryan Murphy. So American Horror Story, so on and so forth.
I was just reading about this yesterday.
Called Hollywood, and it's on Netflix. And I watched the first episode yesterday. It was very, very underside of Hollywood. But I was
the dark side of Hollywood.
Well, it wouldn't be called dark anymore. But it was the alternative side of Hollywood.
This is like post-World War II Hollywood or something?
Yeah, it's the
50s or 60s?
heydays of Hollywood, basically. Yeah. It was basically right after talkies. For those of you who don't know, apparently Adam doesn't.
I know.
Talkies was the distinction of talking in movies because everything was silent for the first the Buster Keaton era, and or Charlie Chaplin era, if that helps. But
right, exactly. That's my favorite era.
Yeah,
silent movies.
Right, but it was
Organ Grinder.
What if a Steven Seagal movie was a silent movie?
It might be better. Everything good about Under Siege, you don't have to have
dialogue
to have.
Although the sound of a broken bone really adds to it, huh, Pastor? That arm snapping in a way it shouldn't. There's something to it.
Wow. On Deadly Ground, Steven Seagal directed. Joe wants us to know.
There are definitely lines in the movie which are truly great.
So anyway, this I'm prepared for.
Like where it says, "Now this I'm trained for."
Yeah.
And nobody beats me in my kitchen.
He says that. Pastor Monty says that because he was a Navy cook.
He's biased.
Right. In any case, I was just going to say, if you want to get what seems to be a pretty accurate picture of what the underside of Hollywood looked like, then you can sort of brave Ryan Murphy's depiction of Hollywood. I'll warn you right now that it is heavily, we'll just call it sin-based. There's lots of nudity, and it's like LGBTQ, all sorts of stuff.
What's it stream on?
It's Netflix.
Oh.
So it's interesting, but apparently a lot of it's based on a true story about a gas station that would service people while servicing people. Like Cole Porter shows up in it. Those of you who don't know, Cole Porter wrote like a bunch of our classic American standards, but he was also out, essentially, though not out. It was weird. There's a movie about that called "De Lovely" that's de boring.
Nice.
But in any case,
Well, everybody knew.
But
I mean, back then you couldn't be out, but everybody knew that Cole Porter was gay.
well, and that's my point. That's my point. Is in Hollywood, they created a whole dichotomy of society, and so this kind of focuses on that sort of thing. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if I'll keep watching it. It's only 8 episodes long, but it is pretty interesting. Ryan Murphy's a hit or miss for me.
So he's just American Horror Story? I don't know. He doesn't do anything else?
He does a lot of things like Glee.
Oh, okay.
He's actually kind of a prolific TV producer.
Gotcha.
Let's see. So, but to bring us back to where we need to be, I don't know how much time we have left.
Yeah, we should wrap up with probably this thought.
But, okay. Well, I was going to say, to bring us back to where we need to be, speaking of Steven Seagal, one of his later theatrical releases, because everything now is direct-to-video, was with DMX.
Oh.
Just,
Cradle to the Grave?
I think it was Cradle to the Grave.
Cradle to the
Or was
Grave.
that Jet Li?
Because he was in another... Cradle to the Grave, I think. Because he was in another movie with Ja Rule.
Ja Rule.
Which was the one with the prison.
Yeah, and there's a helicopter that crashes into the top of the prison.
Yeah, and that's
I mean,
their
I
escape.
think I don't watch them, you know.
Those are cool movies.
I'm just kidding. I love Steven Seagal movies.
Well, we were going to segue...
Exit wounds. There you go.
Exit wounds?
That's what Joe says. Exit wounds.
Exit wounds.
And Heidi just wants to bring attention to the documentary that we watched. She wants to give a shout out to those eyebrows.
Oh, yeah. The guy that...
This Satanist guy, he has these just wicked eyebrows.
They are wicked. They're in the shape of horns.
Yeah.
Because he's a Satanist, and he maintains them.
Because that's what the Bible says, the devil had wicked eyebrows.
All right, we should wrap it up. We were going to talk about our dog. I don't know if you can hear him. We were going to talk about praying because it's come up. DMX has brought it up. He hosted like a live Instagram, I think it was, like he did a live Bible study on Instagram or something like that. Which
Joe Jesse just called Exit Wounds the second most entertaining movie ever, right behind Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Is that a slam on Raiders of the Lost Ark?
No,
I don't get it.
I can't imagine. He's joking about Exit Wounds.
Oh.
I would have to assume,
it is
Joe.
entertaining, for the record. To say it's not entertaining, but
anyway.
All right.
Continue what you're saying.
I don't know what I was saying, but there's been some backlash in terms of the significance of prayer. And on one side, you have an unlikely source promoting prayer and, leaning into God's will during an uncertain time and stuff like that, from DMX, of all people. And then on the other side, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Elizabeth Hasselbeck was, being public on her social medias and stuff, talking about the importance of prayer and stuff during this time. And then Meghan McCain was saying that she's disturbed by, in reference to Hasselbeck, she's disturbed by the rhetoric someone like her is using. I think specifically referring to the call for people to be praying and being in submission to God's will and leaning into His Word and stuff. So, I don't know.
Why is McCain taking an issue? Isn't she
conservative?
Is she conservative?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
She's the daughter of John McCain. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's the daughter of John McCain. She's kind of she's an interesting character though, because she vacillates between what would be considered liberal and what would be considered conservative, and sometimes she's kind of all over the board.
So I don't know if it's a syncretic issue where she's like kind of picks and chooses, but what I will say is I really dislike the holiday homeless model for our faith, where people feel like they're doing a good work because, things are terrible right now, and so we're going to go out and feed the poor. And I've done that during my holidays. I did that on Christmas, and so yeah, I do good work. And I really dislike that model of coming to God specifically only in times of trial.
Yeah.
That being said, why would we ever not want people to come to God during times of trial? Like, it's just, the question to me is not about getting people to do that. The question to me is about how do you make that last so it becomes a part of your normal routine and not just something that you use him for when you're having issues in your life.
Yeah, the fire insurance.
I don't know what DMX was saying. I didn't get a chance to read the article, but that's the only critique I would have on that. Yeah, of course people should be praying more. They just don't pray enough in their normal everyday life. God isn't just somebody who wears the hat of Savior. In Scripture he presents himself as wearing the hat of father and husband and friend and provider and all of these various things. He should be talked to on all of those levels, not just when you're having issues.
DMX was hosting a Bible study on Ecclesiastes
What?
chapter 3 and 4.
What?
That's what I said at the top. He was hosting an Instagram Bible study.
Okay.
I know, it's really random. And, from a source in a sphere of influence that you wouldn't have guessed. But he was saying...
I wonder Kanye can...
And he said there's a time for... Or he was saying your God is giving you the time to get closer to him. Sort of the counter to the whole binge thing.
Agree.
Use this time in a productive way.
See, now
to explore your relationship with God.
That's definitely the right way to look at it.
And then he was saying, lean into him and pray and seek his will in all things. He was encouraging people. There was, I guess, 14,000 people watching his live Bible study.
Did he get pushback on that?
From the article I pulled from, I don't know. No, I'm sure. Anytime you put yourself out there, you're getting pushback from someone, right? But anyways,
significant pushback or whatever.
To a degree, yes. My take on it is a couple of. First of all,
I'm laughing at Jesse's comment.
This goes back to the issue that regardless of whether people want to admit it or not, and we see more people doing so, everybody deals with the aspect of spirituality. And at one point, and so we just have more people being more vocal in the time frame that we're in. So that doesn't surprise me. But my caution would be that if you go into 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, one of the things it talks about is in the end times, there's going to be the development of a false spirituality. And I see that beginning to be generated as well, where you have national figures, not only in the entertainment field, but politically as well. You have national figures that are presenting a false or fake spirituality, and there are a lot of people that fall for that. So we need to be careful when we see this type of thing happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we're looking at right now is the possibility for revival. I think there's always going to be false prophets, but it's going to be their fruit that shows that. People who are calling people to get into their scripture and to pray, especially during this time, a time of trial. I mean, that seems like a call of admonishment. So for those of you who don't know, admonish is to direct somebody where they've done something wrong.
There's an interesting commercial that's on the cable networks where they're talking about the David Wilkerson organization is promoting a book and promoting the idea that there will be a great spiritual revival after the events that we're seeing now,
Sure.
which the underlying message is that in his works, David Wilkerson predicted that at some point we would have this type of a devastating virus or event in New York, and then subsequently there would be a revival.
Well,
which
it's
would come out
sort of. It wasn't in his works. It was a letter that was found, that was looked at, and it was pretty general speaking. It did talk of the epicenter being New York.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
it's kind
of like a Nostradamus type thing.
well, no, Nostradamus was actually not very specific in the things that he said. David Wilkerson, like, there's some real fruit that came out of what he said, and he was, his fruit, I think, for the most part, speaks for itself. But he's long gone. So
Oh yeah,
so this was something that was said a long time ago, and it is what it is.
I think
I think the call for revival doesn't come from David Wilkerson, though, and the call for revival and seeing the possibility of revival in this has been something that preachers have been saying from the moment that this thing hit. Well, preachers have been praying for since before this thing hit, and from the moment that it has hit, I think what we have seen is a push toward a revival in America. I think that that's true.
Well, I think that, yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it, but I think, and as I was reading the DMX article about how he hosted this thing with 14,000 people, which, in the context of 350 million people in our country, is not big, but
It's ABF big.
I think we would be so lucky to reach 14,000
Right.
people. Just being honest, but
It would be so burdened to reach 14,000
yeah,
people.
no joke. But one of my thoughts was like, oh wow, cool. He had 14,000 people on his Instagram Bible study thing. That's crazy. I feel like we have a big Bible study on Friday nights when there's 20 people and I'm overwhelmed. But
Yeah.
so in terms of the revival thing, what I was thinking was that's cool, but then what? And he's calling people to this, but then what? Like, and it reminds me of like what we're doing here in terms of speak to their ground. Like, it's not enough to just say these things and, convince people to consider this and, explore your relationship with God because it is there whether you like it or not. But then what? Like, and people shouldn't be staying like spiritual babies. So a great revival is cool, but only to the extent that it actually means something. And
Well,
isn't just,
so let's speak to that. Let's speak to that just to be really clear about our intent in this show. Here's the deal. It's called the cultural mandate. Be fruitful and multiply. It's found in Genesis. This is what we're supposed to do, and it's not talking about having sex. Although that's a part of it. Well, actually, procreation is a part of it, but procreation extends beyond just the sexual act and generation of other human beings, but it extends to culture and who we are as people, right? This is who God created us to be. That's found in the book of Genesis, right? And then we have the spreading of the gospel, sort of a re-upping and redefinition of the cultural mandate in what we call the Great Commission in Scripture. Go out and make disciples of all men, teaching them basically who I am and baptizing them and so on and so forth, right? So this is what is given to us as Christians. And I think a lot of Christians don't really understand that there is to be a procreation in their development as people. So when Adam throws out this quick terminology, speak to their ground, that's something that we in ABF and here in Portland, Oregon, our church, Aletheia Bible Fellowship, that's something that we have as part of our practice, is that we speak about who God is, and then we tether people to three specific things: the local body, sound doctrine, and the truth of Scripture. And then we ground them to that so that they can then grow out from that and accomplish the Great Commission and the cultural mandate. And this is what we want for you to do. So if you are a person who holds a belief in God, and you're a person who, if you're a person who holds a belief in God, but you are not creating You're not creating. You're not going out and making disciples. You're not going out and having dominion over the earth, and being fruitful. What are you doing? It's not enough that you have a spiritual awakening or whatever. What good is it if you are no longer sleeping and your eyes are open, but you lay in bed all day until it becomes dark again, you fall back asleep? That's ridiculous. It's not sound. It's not wise. In fact, at that point, it becomes wasteful. It's negative to you. Eventually, you develop bed sores and you become fat and your body begins to degrade and you have to have a nurse come and turn you over and feed you intravenously or whatever. That's ridiculous. Go out and live your life and create, because that's who God made you to be. And you can't do that unless you're grounded in doctrine. So that is the discussion of God in every day and what he means to everyday life in the local body, so that you can practice the doctrine that you have. So be with other Christians who are serious about learning who God is. You don't have to be with us. Be with other Christians who are serious about learning who God is and who take him seriously and take that process seriously. Tether yourself to it so that you can't, be separated from it. And then ground yourself, root yourself into the ground of those things, of scripture where you learn about how you should be, of doctrine where you discuss how you should be, and the local body where you live out how you should be. And when you do that, you will explode in terms of your productivity in life and your behavior. It will become righteous before God and your outlook will become joyful. And if you're having issues where you are having issues of where you feel that you need to disassociate and binge watch, for instance, in order to get through your day, you can't interact with your family, you're secretly depressed, and now you can't hide it because everybody sees you all the time, because your family is like locked in a room with you. You have a terrible relationship with your wife and kids because you've been so busy making money that you haven't, and providing, that you haven't taken the time to really know who they are. You want to fix that? This is how you fix that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm off of it.
See you next Saturday, guys. But yeah, no, I was gonna bring it back to, have your life have meaning. Don't just binge watch for the sake of binge watching. Like, be productive and all the things we were talking about earlier. Like, be creative. Like, now's the time to figure out how you can be for God.
And let me just tell you something. This isn't a show to us. This is ministry, right? So we have a channel that you can reach out to us. A lot of you know us. Apparently we have a decent following in Nigeria. We reach out to us. We're not just a channel where we're putting on a show for our own sake. We were doing this before COVID, and we'll be doing it after. Maybe not every week, but we'll be doing it after. Reach out to us because we want to help you with that. We want to get you grounded in a local church body that has sound doctrine, that has a right understanding of the Word of God. Don't let that admonishment just fall on your ears, and make you guilty.
Yeah, feel bad about yourself.
Do something.
Yeah. All right. In all seriousness, thank you guys. Thanks for being here in episode 11. And we'll see you next Saturday. Adios.
See ya.
The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Aletheia Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.